So welcome to everyone for the second session of the Secrets of Gita Revealed. Today we have a very interesting topic called karma. And all of us have a different understanding of what the word karma means. So we just discussed about the potential different meanings of the word karma. But we look directly from the scriptures as to how scriptures define karma. And there are multiple contextual meanings to the word karma. So you have to understand the meaning in the context in which that particular term is being used. So we said we will begin with a few questions. So before you answer, please raise your hand. I will call your name and then you can answer these questions. Okay. So we'll go with probably 2 answers with each of these questions. My first question is actually quite simple. Why do we go to school? Please raise your hand. Do not speak. We'll call your name, then you. Otherwise, because the session is being recorded, if everybody speaks together, later on YouTube, it's going to not sound very nice. Yeah. Okay, so I will call. We have a problem with people going on mute. 1 second. Okay. So kindly be on mute while the class is going on. Otherwise, it's very disturbing for the rest of us, including the person taking the class. So Chitra Mataji, why do we go to school?
To get knowledge.
To get knowledge. Okay. It's a good answer. Anybody else? Kavita Mataji, why do we go to school?
To learn knowledge and also to get discipline.
To learn knowledge and also to get discipline, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Good. Okay. Let's go to the next question. Why do we go to the doctor? Pratibha Mataji?
To cure ourselves of diseases.
To cure ourselves of diseases. Okay. Can we go to the same doctor for different types of diseases, or do we go to specialists for different types of diseases?
Different doctors for different requirements.
Why is that?
Because not one person may have the expertise to handle all the problems.
So then can we agree the human body is very complex as a machine?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So it is so complex that we need specialists just to handle the teeth, just the nose, the ears, the throat, the eyes, the heart, the brains. The human body is so, so exquisitely designed, and yet it is so complex that we have specialists who we need the help of to cure ourselves of diseases. So that brings me to my next question. Why should we go to the temple? Venkatesh Prabhu? Yes.
I think it is to get more spiritual knowledge and get the grace of the Lord.
To get spiritual knowledge and to receive the grace of the Lord. Very nice. I think there are 2 Venkatesh, so I will ask the other Venkatesh Prabhu also to respond. You were going to say something? There's one more Venkatesh Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
We go to temple for peace of mind.
Peace of mind. Very good. Okay. So the word mandir, the word man, of course, means mind, but the word mandir means residence. It's the residence of the Supreme Lord. So if you go to any Vishnu temple, actually any temples, most temples are consecrated in such a way that it tends to be a source of energy. So there is some special ways in which the deities are established that allows you to tap into higher energy fields within that designated space, especially the Garbhagriha. So if we go to the school to learn, and if we go to the doctor to cure ourselves, then we go to the temple to cure ourselves as well as to learn. So if the body gives us so many problems, and if it gives us such severe problems that we have to approach a doctor to cure our illness because we don't know how our own body functions, and we need expertise. So if your physical body has disease, you approach a doctor. If your mind has diseases, we approach a psychologist. So the word mandir means it's a place where you go to cure your mental ailments and, of course, learn something. But in most of the temples in India, no classes are being conducted. You just go, take darshan, and leave. That's it. Where is the education happening in the temple? There are very few temples that are actually engaged in proactively, dedicatedly working to teach the Jivatmas on how to handle themselves. So ISKCON as an institution was set up by Srila Prabhupada, where there are classes that happen in every single temple, once in the morning, once in the evening. In the morning, there is always going to be Bhagavatam class. In the evening, there is always Bhagavad Gita class. So anybody who enters the temple at a designated point in time when these classes happen, not only get to get the darshan of the deities, but also get information and knowledge that can be applied. So the purpose of going to the temple is not just to take darshan, which in itself is actually very beneficial for us. You do get sukriti for it. But in addition, it cures you of your mental ailments by the process of exposing yourself to the deities, the energy fields, and also to the knowledge that is there for you to accept and imbibe and incorporate into your personal life. So my last question is, why should we chant the holy names? We saw yesterday that Sripad Adi Shankaracharya gave us 4 things that he said we had to do. If there is one book we should study, it's the Bhagavad Gita. If there is one God that we want to worship, it should be Lord Krishna. If there is one mantra we want to chant, it should be the names of Lord Hari. And if there is one duty that should be most important to us, it should be the duty of serving the Supreme Lord. So the question is, why should we chant the holy names of the Lord? Manjula Mataji?
Mataji, to cleanse our mind and
Cleanse our mind.
and then to get some kind of positive vibrations or positive vibes within ourselves, Mataji.
Positive vibes and vibrations. Very nice. Amarendra Prabhu?
Yeah, hello.
Yes.
See, suppose if you chant the holy names, now that provides confidence and creates trust, belief.
It increases your faith.
Yeah.
Yes, very nice. What
Confidence
about Sonal?
Confidence. Suppose sometime what happens is that we are doing some work, okay, but sometime what happens that we don't feel that much of confidence. So I start chanting the name of, I start chanting the holy names, now then we get start building this confidence.
So I see some nice answers in the chat. That to achieve a state of samadhi, to remember God all the time, to go back to God's kingdom, all of those are very nice answers. So thank you very much. We'll take one last answer. So Sonal Mataji, if you have anything additional that you would like to add to why should we chant the holy names of the Lord?
Hare Krishna Mataji,
Hare
to
Krishna.
get inner happiness.
Inner happiness.
Yes, internal happiness.
Internal happiness. Very good. And Ramachandran Prabhu?
It is a yagna in Kali Yuga and pathway to liberation from cycle of birth and death.
It's a yajna in Kali Yuga, and it's the pathway to liberation. That's right. Pratibha Mataji?
It is to stay connected to the Supreme Godhead.
Yes, it's a way to connect to the Supreme Lord, because every time you chant, you're calling out the Lord's name and he is there with you. So very nice answers. The actual meaning of the word mantra. Again, we said that the word man means mind and pra means to release. So what is the mind being released from? It is being released from stress, anxiety, negative thoughts. So repeatedly chanting the Hare Krishna mantra actually helps us control our mind. Right? So we said yesterday in the class, some of the topics that the Lord covers are how to control the mind, how to control the senses, how to be determined, how to cultivate good qualities, what are the qualities that we should avoid, right? So these are things that are very, very important applications for us in our personal life. So now let's look at the word karma. I just happened to pull some definitions, or rather some, what can I call it? You do just karma search and then you check images and you'll find a whole lot of images. So there are two ways in which karma is being defined here. These are not necessarily from the scriptures, but they more or less get it right. So there are two ways to look at karma. In reality, when we use the word karma, at least in our culture, it has a tendency to create the sense of fear in you. You know, something bad is going to happen to you. But what does karma actually really mean? You can look at it as a fear-based or you can look at it as love-based. It's really depending on the lens that you are looking through that particular situation. So fear-based means here it says you reap what you sow. Karma is the consequences, both good and bad, that are brought to you based on your actions, good and bad, and therefore you are judged for your actions. But if you look at it slightly differently, in the sense, don't look at it from a space of fear, but look at it as from the space of love or the framework of love. That same karma, the definition on the left-hand side, if you look at it on the right-hand side, karma is a gift that brings you lessons for your soul's personal growth and will continue to bring these lessons back around until you have learned them. So one way to look at it is from a space of fear. The other way to look at it is from the space of love. So karma here, obviously, it's talking about consequences, your actions and your results. And it says here, how people treat you is their karma. How you react to how they treat you is actually your karma. And there is a very cheeky poster at the bottom that says, karma has no problem getting back in touch with you when need be, which means one cannot escape one's karma. So what you put out will come back to you in unexpected ways. Therefore, we should be careful about what we do. So we should only do those things that we don't mind getting the results for. This karma cleanse talks about how we have to be grateful for everything in life. We have to act from the space of love. We have to understand what is the motive with which we are actually doing our activities. So for example, let's say you get into a misunderstanding with somebody, you don't know how to fight them back. Fight them means, let's just say verbally, you don't know how to handle the situation. but deep down you're burning inside you, wishing that this person will pay a price. So your motive and intent there is very negative. There is a saying, watch your thoughts, because your thoughts become words. Watch your words, because your words turn into actions. Watch your actions, because your actions become habits. Watch your habits, because your habits become your personality, and your personality determines your destiny. So there is a ripple effect of everything that we do. So before you know it, your thought becomes words, your words become actions, and soon you're not in control. The one aspect of karma that is listed here as part of the cleansing, which I think is very important, is the aspect of forgiveness. Do you know that Shastras say that if we hold a grudge against somebody who has done us wrong, we have to take birth again. Just so in the next birth, you can resolve that situation one way or the other. Either you'll take revenge or you'll forgive. Until you do one or the other, you will keep taking birth and coming into contact with that soul again and again and again until you resolve that situation once and for all. The best resolution to move on is forgiveness. Because if we don't learn to forgive, you have to come back to interact with that same soul again. Maybe under a different circumstance. They may not be part of your family. They may come in a different way to associate with you again. So before we give up our life, and since none of us know when we are going to give up our life, it's better to learn to forgive others for whatever wrongs that you feel that they may have done to you. Because forgiveness is one aspect of cleansing. Having gratitude for everything that you have in life is an aspect of cleansing. Having positive attitude, positive motives, acting from a space of love, these are all cleansing aspects of karma. Right? So in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord is telling Arjuna that this karma is actually very difficult to understand. So in the 16th shloka of the 4th chapter, the Lord is telling Arjuna, even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So the Sanskrit shloka goes as follows. Kim karma kima karmeti kavayopyatra mohitaha tatte karma pravakshyami yajñatva mokshase shubhat. Krishna is saying, even the people who are well versed in scriptures and Vedas, they get bewildered because they don't know what is action, what is inaction. But then Krishna is so magnanimous, so merciful, so kind. He is willing to reveal the secret for us to get rid of all our karmic reactions, not just from this life, but also from all previous lives. Just like we read in the shlokas from the Padma Purana and in the shlokas by Sripad Adi Shankaracharya. If we simply follow the instructions of the Lord, you can wipe out your karma. And therefore, we should not fear what we have done in the past, because the past is gone. You cannot do anything about it. So do not worry about God knows what I did in the past. God knows how am I going to pay a price. So we should not be worried about what we did in the past. But at the same time, we should not think that we can do whatever we want in this life, because it's not going to work that way. Here Krishna is saying, I will explain to you what action is. Just by knowing and understanding how action works, you can be liberated from all misfortune, Krishna is saying. Which means if we follow Krishna's instructions and if we've understood what Krishna is saying, then he's given us the recipe for success already. There's no secret. There's no difficulty at all. It's very simple to follow Krishna's instruction. The recipe is given there by the Lord. All he's asking us to do is use our intelligence and follow the instructions. So in the next shloka, in the 17th shloka, Krishna is telling Arjuna, Karmano hyapi bodhavyam, bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha, akarmanascha bodhavyam, gahana karmano gatihi. Again, Krishna is repeating how difficult things are. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. So Krishna is saying it's not easy to understand how karma operates. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. So here Krishna is giving three definitions: action, forbidden action, and inaction. So karma, vikarma, and akarma. So you can see the three words in the Sanskrit shloka. Karmano hyapi bodhavyam, that's karma, that's action. Bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha, vikarmanaha, that's forbidden action. Akarmanascha bodhavyam, that's inaction. So he's saying if you understand these three definitions, what's the consequence of actions as per these three definitions? We will come to a slide to understand. And if you follow and if you've understood this, you can go back to the spiritual world in this life. Why should you come back and take birth again? There's no reason for it. But is it that easy? So in this photograph, you see different types of personalities. Some people are very famous, so we know their names. Some people are not so fortunate and we don't know who they are, but we know that they're suffering. But actually, on this slide, if you see, every one of them is suffering. It's just that if our situation is worse than somebody else's, then we always assume that other person is far better off than me. They must be really enjoying themselves. You think Ambani can sleep very easily at night? He's always worried, how am I going to protect my thousands and thousands of crores that I have acquired? But the question on this slide is, why do we all have different starting points? So if you think about a 100 meters race, and if we want to compete in a 100-meter race, all of us are at the same starting point and we are just waiting for that gun to go off and we take off. And based on our ability and our practice and our determination, it determines who comes first. So the question is, why is it that 100-meter line for us when it comes to our birth, it's not the same? In that same 100-meter line, some of us seem to be already at the 95 meters level. Some of us are like 10 meters behind the starting point. Some of us are in between. So why is there such disparity? Why is it that everybody is not born equal in terms of circumstances into which they take birth? Why is it that not everybody has the same opportunity? Why is God partial? Actually, that's the question we want the answer to. Because there are so many differences that we see so much injustice, we see so much torture, we see people using unethical means to acquire money, to acquire power, to disrupt other people's life. So what happens when we witness all of this? The obvious question is, this is not fair. Why should we accept this? So let's look at a court of law. In a court of law, two parties go to present their case. They are opposing each other. And only one person can win. The other person has to lose. So in this context, what happens is the judge is simply applying the law to determine who has adhered to the law and who has violated the law. In some instances, these are two different parties. In some instances, the parties are the government on one side and the citizen on the other. So sometimes it's the government that's bringing the case against the citizen. In other instances, two citizens go in front of the judge to get their conflict resolved. But it just so happens that one may be rewarded and the other may be rejected. So can we say that the judge is being partial, assuming that no judges are corrupt? So can we say that the judge is playing favorite? No, obviously we cannot say that, because he is applying the same law equally to both the parties. And therefore, he's simply by applying the law, he's determining who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And within that, there may be varying degrees of right and varying degrees of wrong also. So the interesting thing about human law is that if you violate the law, you don't always get caught. Because sometimes the government doesn't notice that you violated the law. Sometimes it may take them a long time to notice that you've been repeatedly violating the law until you get caught. And sometimes the government may let you off very easy if your violation is very trivial. But the law is meant to be applied equally to everybody. So similarly, the Supreme Lord also applies the law equally to everybody, with a slight exception. So we'll find out what that exception is. So no one is suffering or prospering undeservedly, which means we have all done something in our past life which we don't remember, most of us don't remember, which we don't understand. The disconnect for us is, because we don't know what we did in the past, we have a hard time accepting the consequences in this life. That is the biggest problem for us. It's like we want to know, what did we do? Why are we suffering? Seriously, I'm a good person. Could I have really been that bad in some past life? So one person went to a saint and he told him, "Oh, Guruji, I'm suffering. You know, my health is not doing well. My finances, I'm not doing well. Relationships are not working well. Please help me." So he was expecting a very nice answer from the Acharya. to figure out how he can overcome. He says, I have not treated anybody ill, but I'm suffering tremendously. And the Guru just looked at him and he said, you were a rascal in your last life. That's it, end of story. You were a rascal in your last life. That's why you're suffering. So essentially, the Guru was saying that our suffering has a reason. The reason, we don't remember some activities we did in the past for which we are suffering the consequences now, which means each soul is responsible for his own vices and virtues and their concomitant joys and sorrows. So in chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita, the chapter is titled Daivi Ashura Sampad Vibhaga Yogaha, where Krishna talks about virtues and vices. What are the good qualities we have to develop? What are the bad qualities we have to give up? And Krishna, throughout the Bhagavad Gita, talks about a lot of good qualities. So more than 40 good qualities Krishna talks about. But bad qualities, 6. Isn't that interesting? Throughout the Bhagavad Gita, there are more examples of what good qualities are than examples of bad qualities we should avoid. Do you want to know what the 6 are? So the 6 are pride, arrogance, conceit, hatred, and anger and ignorance. Krishna is telling Arjuna, if anybody has all these 6 qualities, he says they are demoniac. He calls them Ashuras. Ashuras possess these 6 qualities. What are they? Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, hatred, ignorance. Krishna is saying, if you want to walk the path of not getting yourself into trouble frequently, you have to avoid these 6 traits. Or you have to give up these 6 traits if you possess them. Hence, our own character is determined by the habits and the value systems that we have developed. So that means your vices and virtues you are responsible for. And therefore they determine the amount of joy and sorrow that you will get in this life. But remember, Krishna also says he is your best friend. Krishna says, I am your best friend. I am your well-wisher. Suhridam sarva bhutanam. Krishna says, I am not here to unnecessarily, without reason, torture people. It pains Krishna to see us suffering. He wants you to give up your bad habits. But you should be determined and ready to give it up. Krishna also says, I am impartial. Sammoham sarva bhuteshu. I am equal to everybody. But then in the rest of the shloka, which is not here on the slide, Krishna also says, are you able to see my slide? I think my thing went off. Yeah, there we go. So Krishna says that He is the well-wisher, he is impartial. And the second half of the shloka goes, but my devotees are very dear to me. I am their friend and they accept me as their friend. Which means Krishna is impartially partial to his devotees. For everybody else, he is waiting. You want me in your life or not? If you don't want me in your life, it is okay. I still want the best for you, but I can't help you if you don't want me in your life. But the minute you accept Krishna into your life, Krishna says, I take care of you personally. So that's the secret, how to avoid karmic reactions. So coming back to the point, why is there discrimination? So why are some people starving to death because they cannot get food? While others have such surplus of food, we have no problem wasting it. So this stark disparity, when we see it and we witness it, it's very difficult for us. It's very difficult for us to see somebody not even have just basic food, just one meal a day. There are so many jivatmas suffering for lack of food. You know, Prabhupada used to say, human beings, they build temples, they build churches, they build mosques. They go to the mosque or go to the temple, and what are they asking God for? Please give me adequate food, give me shelter, give me this, give me that, give me this, give me that. Prabhupada asked, who is taking care of the millions and trillions of animals that are living all around us? Have they constructed a temple and are they praying for food? Who is taking care of the elephants that require so much food? Who is making sure the ant is getting its food every day? Why is this disparity of some human beings starving to death and some human beings having so much food? Why is that visible only in human life? We don't see elephants starving to death. We don't see birds starving to death. If the Lord is supplying all the other jivatmas food, why is it human beings can't even get a morsel of food? Some human beings are suffering just to get a meal. Why? Because it is only the human being that is greedy. So, and there's an example that Prabhupada gives in this, in relation to this. So he says, if you take a grain, a huge sack of grains and leave it out in the street, the birds will come, they will take a few grains, be happy and go. Maybe the animals will come, they'll take a few grains and go. But once a human being sees that huge gunny sack of grains, he will look left, he will look right. Nobody is seeing, he'll pick up the entire bag and take it home with him. Even though right then and there, he doesn't need that entire bag of grains. So it is our own greed that has caused such inequality. And therefore, it's so hard for us to accept that some people are suffering so much and some people seem to have it easy. But the reason beyond this is our lack of values. And those values have to be based in Shastra. It cannot be self-created. So the karma theory simply says we enjoy or suffer based on the actions that we have performed in our past. So people may know Newton's third law, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So this is true in physics. The only difference is that in real life, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, but we don't know what the time frame is. And we'll look at an example shortly. So Krishna is so kind. He's witnessing all our activities as Paramatma in our hearts. When we don't like someone, we tend to avoid them. Or if somebody has hurt us or harmed us or disobeyed us or whatever it is, if somebody has not kept you happy, you will go out of your way to avoid them. But Krishna is such a merciful God, such a compassionate God, such a kind God, such a forgiving God. In spite of us having violated his laws repeatedly, he is still there with you to help you. He is there as Paramatma, accompanying you all the time. You can seek his help anytime you want. It's just that some of us don't want his help. So Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto. I am there in everyone. I have not abandoned you at all. As a matter of fact, you have abandoned me, but I have not abandoned you. I'm your parent. I will always be there for you. The child may give up the parents out of, convenience. Parent never gives up on the child. So Krishna is always there with us at a witness. So who decides for us what the reward is or what the punishment is? It's Prakriti that decides the reward and punishment, but it has to be sanctioned by the Supreme Lord. So under the Supreme Lord's supervision, the soul is going to get a particular type of body in the next life, depending on our desires and our past activities. So do you know, as per Shastra, we can take 84 lakh different types of bodies. So what happens in society if you violate the law? If it is a law that is egregious enough from a violation standpoint, the government throws you in jail. And when they throw you in jail, what happens? Do you get to keep your clothes? No. The first thing they do is change your clothes. Similarly, when we violate the laws of the Lord, you have a big wardrobe to choose from. You can take any one of these bodies that you want as per your desire, as per your past actions. Can you imagine such a huge wardrobe, 84 lakh? Now you may ask, strange number, yeah, where is this 84 lakh coming from? Why 84? Why not 800? Why not 90 lakhs? Why not 1 million? We can ask all these questions. The answer is very simple. There are 84 lakh species because we have 84 lakh different types of desires. To satisfy each of the desires, you need to have different types of bodies to fulfill those desires. And therefore, because we have 84 lakh desires, the Lord is helping you satisfy those desires, even though he doesn't want you to. Reluctantly, he allows you to take any one of those clothing items. So this is why the human life is so precious, because karma applies only to human beings. Karma does not apply in the sense that if you are occupying a body of an animal, karma doesn't apply to you. Karma applies to those who can discriminate, who can use their intelligence to follow the scriptures. So otherwise, if you're in an animal body, karma doesn't apply to you. You may be in an animal body because of your past karma as a human being, but it's only humans who experience karmic reactions. Because we have the intelligence to discriminate between right and wrong. That means we have a choice to do the right thing. We can either do pious things or we can do sinful things. Or better, we shouldn't do either pious things or sinful things. Avoid both of them. You may ask me, what is a strange kind of instruction? I'm not even supposed to do good to others. You're telling me to avoid pious activities. I can understand if you tell me avoid sinful activities. Why are you telling me to avoid pious activities? Because even when you perform a pious activity, you have to come back and take birth again. You have to be rewarded for your pious activities. Now you must be really confused. So what on earth can I do to avoid karma? The secret is on this slide. If you understand this slide and the message on this slide, you will today change your life and do only Sukriti. So what is the third kind of activity which Krishna calls akarma? The third kind of activities that a human being can engage in is called devotional activities. Devotional activities, which means you should do everything as per Krishna's instructions. So if you do everything to please Krishna, then you get Sukriti. And every time you perform a devotional act like chanting, like listening to the Bhagavad Gita, reciting the shlokas, doing kirtan, going to the temple, taking up some seva in the temple, offering yourself to the Supreme Lord, all of this constitutes Sukriti. So even a little bit of Sukriti, Krishna says, can wipe out millions of lifetimes of karma. What to speak of what you've done in this life. It is actually said in our scriptures, if you say the word Krishna with love once, you have simply wiped away all your past sinful reactions. Just by chanting the name Krishna once. That's the power of the mantra. And that's the power of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So if you perform pious activities, you have to take birth again to be rewarded for it. If you perform sinful activities, you have to take birth again to suffer for it. So if you really don't want to take birth again, you will do only Sukriti day in and day out. You will think, how can I please Krishna? But what happens when bad things happen to us? We play the blame game, as I said yesterday. So we're going to go into the Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm going to talk about a little pastime. So there was a king by the name Uttanapada. He had a son called Dhruva. And he had two wives, Suniti, who is the first wife, and Suruchi, the second wife, the younger one. Now, when the king marries the second wife, he begins to disregard the first wife because he is so besotted with Suruchi's beauty. So Dhruva happens to be the son of Suniti. And one day, he goes to his father, who's sitting on the throne, and he wants to sit on his father's lap. Suruchi, who happens to be there, tells him, "You have no right to sit on your father's lap. So if you had come from my womb, then you have the right to sit on your father's lap." And Dhruva was very young, he was 5 or 6 years old, when he heard this from his stepmother. So what do children do when they are spoken to harshly? They get upset, they cry. So here comes Dhruva crying to his mother, Suniti. He's angry. He's extremely upset with the words that he has heard because he feels insulted. Even as a young child, he has experienced this insult in a very strong way. And he asks his mother, "I want justice." And he decides, "I want a kingdom bigger and better than my father and my grandfather." His grandfather was one of the Manus. And his great-grandfather is Lord Brahma himself. So he was very determined. I am going to extract my revenge by being better. So what is Suniti's response as a mother? Did she tell him, "Just you wait. This Suruchi, she will pay a price for it tomorrow because she has done you wrong"? That was not what she told Dhruva. What she told Dhruva is, "I understand that you're upset and you're disappointed. But," and in this process, she gives him 3 instructions. Her first instruction to her son is, never develop any hatred towards anyone who has caused harm to you. So what's the first instruction? Never develop hatred towards anyone who has caused harm to you. Second instruction. Whatever inconveniences and calamities that you are experiencing in life is because of your past sinful activities. Therefore, she did not say, "Don't worry, Suruchi will pay a significant price for what she has done to a young child." So she didn't say Suruchi will suffer tomorrow. She said, "You have done something yesterday," meaning in a prior life, "that has caused this to happen." Her third instruction for her young son was, whatever desire you may have. In this case, what was Dhruva's desire? I want to prove that I can be a greater kingdom and I can be a greater king than anybody else. My father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather. He was that determined. So her third instruction to her son was, whatever desire you may have, first take the shelter of Lord Krishna. So she dealt with Dhruva's anger and hatred towards his stepmother in a very calm and instructive manner. But then the story goes that Dhruva was not happy yet. He said, "No, you tell me, I want to see God. because I have questions for him. To that, she responded to her son, saying, I have heard that there are great rishis who go deep into the forest to see God. And so Dhruva takes off into the forest. And he asks all the animals, have you seen God? Have you seen God? Have you seen God? And they all say no. So he decides to observe severe austerity. And of course, ultimately, Narad Muni comes, instructs him. Ultimately, the Lord comes and blesses him. So this is this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, he ends up becoming a very great king. He is blessed by the Lord personally, just for his perseverance to see him. He was so determined, I want to see God, because he wanted to worship God so that he can get that great kingdom. But when he sees God, he completely changes his mind. He said, what have I been thinking? My dear Lord, I don't want the kingdom. I just want you. Very smart child. Yeah. So we should learn to tolerate anything that comes our way. So here are the 4 definitions of karma. One is karma means all of our actions and activities. The second is the reactions that we get for our actions is also called karma. This entire system of action and reaction is also called karma. And sukarma, which is doing good things, is also called karma. So these are the meanings of the word karma in the scriptures. So let us look at the 3 categories again that Krishna has already defined in that shloka 17. So he says karma, vikarma, and akarma in that shloka 17. So what does the word karma mean? It means good deeds. So anything that you do as per the scriptures, strictly as per the scriptures, is called karma. And if you obey the scriptures without deviation, it will result in pious credits. However, if you do anything that is not recommended, approved in the scriptures, then it is considered vikarma. And this results in sinful credits. So think about a bank account where you have 2 accounts. In one account, you're depositing all your good deeds. In another account, you're depositing all your bad deeds. As long as there is balance in the good deeds account and balance in the bad deeds account, you have to keep taking birth. So when do you stop taking birth? When you perform a karma. So when you perform spiritual activities, you are not depositing into either of the account. As a matter of fact, the Lord is wiping out from both sides of the equation, the positive and the negative. Therefore, if we are really smart and intelligent, we will simply follow Krishna's instructions to do only a karma, which is devotional activities, and not, therefore, worry about punya and papa. So what does this mean, only do devotional activities? Is the Lord saying, Arjuna, don't fight? Because if you fight, you have to kill. If you kill, you have to experience a sin. Krishna says, no, you fight. But you fight thinking about me, and you fight for me, because that's what I want you to do. So Sukriti means doing what Krishna wants you to do. Sukriti means working for Krishna and working on behalf of Krishna. So Arjuna's incorrect calculation was that he thought, if I walk away from the fight, I don't have to worry about sinful activities. If I fight, I have to worry about sinful activities. So Krishna says, you've got it wrong. For a Kshatriya, he has to fight. So walking away from the fight for a Kshatriya is vikarma. But if I take the same rule and we apply it to a Brahmana is not authorized to engage in violence. So if a Brahmana engages in killing, then it is vikarma. But if a Kshatriya engages in legitimate killing on the battlefield, it is karma. And if that same Kshatriya engages in killing on the battlefield at the instruction of Krishna and to please Krishna, then it is a karma. So now you understand why Krishna says karma is a complicated topic. It is not easy to understand. So to simplify our life, Krishna says, everything that you do it to me, do it for me. You offer it to me. If you offer it to me, I take away all the negative effects of it. What we need to understand is, as we said, we should not be afraid about what we've done in the past. And if we are suffering the negative consequences today because of what we did in the past that we don't know anything about, we should learn to tolerate. Tolerate. Bear with it as much as we can. So everything that happens to us may not be good, but everything that happens can be for our ultimate good. And in this context, I'm going to talk about karma in the context of time. So let's take an example. Let me look at this slide, and then we'll come to the example in the next slide. So what is karma yoga? As per the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is saying, if you and I don't perform our basic duties and responsibilities, if I'm a wife, I have to do my duties and responsibilities as a wife. If I'm a mother, I have to do that. If I'm a daughter, I have certain duties and responsibilities, and so on and so forth. As many identities as we have, that many duties and responsibilities we have to perform. So Krishna is saying every one of us is duty bound to perform those duties and responsibilities for various reasons. One is to maintain individual order. 2 is to maintain social order. 3 is to maintain cosmic order. Which means you may think I'm just a speck of dust. What does it matter whether if I perform my duty or responsibility or not? Who cares? It not only disturbs society, it also disturbs the entire cosmos if we don't do our duty and responsibility. And then Krishna says we also have to set an example for others. If we think we can escape our duties and responsibilities, then we are becoming an example for others. And then Krishna says all of us have to do our duties and responsibilities so that gradually we can elevate ourselves on the spiritual platform. Krishna recognizes that all of us are not going to be perfect in a short period of time. But he wants to know that you are ready to undertake this journey. So Krishna's expectation is that we have to elevate our own consciousness, because if we don't do it, we are actually engaging in self-destructive behavior. How is it self-destructive? Because we're constantly depositing pious, sinful, pious, sinful, pious, sinful. We want to break that pattern. And to break that pattern, you have to use your intelligence by reading the Bhagavad Gita and following the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita. So I said we will talk about time frame. There is one beautiful shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. But let's talk about laws first. We have man-made laws. You have your tax laws. You have your traffic laws. So what would be vikarma in relation to the traffic signal? If the traffic signal is red and I choose to run the red light simply because I feel nobody is watching, there's no traffic, let me just take a risk and do it. That is vikarma, because you're being whimsical. Even though you know the rules and regulations, you just feel you can take a risk and get away with it. So if you see a red light and bring your car slowly to a stop, that is karma, because you know if the light is red for you, it means it's green for somebody else. And following the law, make sure that you don't harm yourself and you don't cause harm to others. In the same traffic signal example, what would be a karma? Do you know what a karma would be? A karma would be not only following the traffic signal, but ensuring others, you help others also follow the traffic signal. So which means a karma simply means we are helping the Lord and assisting him in his activities. So being a devotee means you're not just preserving dharma, you are enhancing the enforcement of dharma. But let us be very careful about the word enforcement. You cannot force other people to follow the instructions of Krishna if they're not ready for it. So how are you then performing a karma? So we said there are two things Krishna wants us to do. He wants you to work for him, and he wants you to work on behalf of him. How does he want you to work for him? Everything that you do, you offer it to him first. So if you've got a nice corporate job and you're earning more than 1 crore a year, make sure a portion of that Lakshmi that the Lord has blessed you with is used in Krishna's service. If the Lord has given you great talent in singing or dancing or making garlands or stitching nice clothes, use that talent in the service of Krishna. So Krishna is not asking you to give up your life for him. Krishna never asked Arjuna to walk away into the forest. Krishna said, you do your duty, but as you're doing your duty, think of me, remember me, and do it for me. Do it to please me. That is a karma. So which means being a devotee of the Lord means assisting him in his activities. Right? So, but for that to happen, as a human being, because we have intelligence, there are few things that are necessary for us. First of all, we need to acknowledge the law of the Lord. So we said there is man-made law and there is universal law. Universal law is the law of how this entire universe operates. And then there is divine law. So all this karma falls under divine law. It's neither human law nor is it universal law. It's the law of the Supreme Lord. First of all, we need to acknowledge that these laws exist. Second, we have to understand these laws. Third, we have to follow the laws. Fourth, in case we accidentally violate the law, we can use Krishna as himself as our attorney to beg forgiveness. But judgment will be there. So the whole process of karma is to help you reform yourself. It's not to punish you unnecessarily. So let's look at this karma in 3 different ways. So some people believe that there is no such thing as karma because you just have one life to live. You can do whatever you want. You can enjoy yourself. We are all just accidents. Everything is a big bang. Everything is a chance. The problem with this philosophy, if we can call it a philosophy, the problem with this is that there's no motivation for you to do anything. There's no motivation for you to change. You are just thinking it's just a fluke. It's just a chance. Ambani is very rich. I'm very poor. What is that? Hrithik Roshan is very handsome. I am not handsome. It's just a chance. It's just a fluke. So imagine if you play a game of cricket. Anybody who wants to play a game of cricket, first of all, needs to understand the rules of the game. and then they follow the rules of the game in order to win or succeed. So if you follow the rules of the game and you've won the game, then you're motivated to do better at it, to practice more and to be more committed so that you can establish your skills even more. You can enhance your skills even more. Imagine if you play a cricket match, there are no rules or regulations. What's the need to play a cricket match at all? There has to be some motivation, right? So this theory of everything is just a chance doesn't even make sense. It essentially says there is no cause and effect, although all around us we see cause and effect. So nobody is going to try to change their life if they accept that everything is just a chance. It's not a chance. But you can change your future. But you have to follow Krishna's instruction. In Christianity and in other religions, generally, they don't have this, they technically have the concept of karma, but they don't have the concept of reincarnation. Because the Bible says, as you sow, so shall you reap. But they are not able to explain why different people are born differently. They say that God's justice is different than our justice. And they excuse it by saying, God, we cannot understand how he operates. Okay, that's very true. We don't know how the Lord operates. But at a minimum, the Lord's justice system should be better than us. If the Lord's justice system is worse than ours, why should we even worry or bother worshipping God? There's no need for God in life. Just take your chances. That means the only reason as to why we are suffering or experiencing good things in our life is because of karma and the process of rebirth. So the whole process of karma is not to punish you without a purpose. It's to help you reform yourself. So it's your own desires and your own past activities that is going to determine your destiny. So as a matter of fact, everything that you and I are doing today, it's already being decided what body I'm going to get out of that 84 lakh wardrobe that is there. So if we want to make sure at a minimum that we get a human birth, then we need to follow the instructions of the Lord. So actually, karma is very logical. It is not diabolical at all. Diabolical means something very evil. It is not evil. So let's look at the causes. So the typical question comes, why do bad things happen to good people? And I'm a good people. Well, there is an immediate cause. Sometimes we do something and we immediately face a repercussion. So if I hit somebody on the street, there's very high likelihood that the other person will just be so shocked, they will hit me back. So if I do something, somebody else is going to respond. So you could say that's like instant karma. If you put your hand in the fire, your hand is going to get burnt. Then there is this quick karma. If you eat something bad, there's a little bit of a delay before you experience the stomach upset. So you did something a few months ago, and for that you suffer the consequences a little later on. And then there is delayed karma. Let's say I take alcohol every day. I may be absolutely enjoying myself and think nothing will happen to me. But the result of my drinking alcohol every day is going to be faced maybe 10, 15 years later in the form of a liver failure. Some people get lucky and don't have liver failure. They drink to the end of life. But we don't know how karma operates. But the most important thing to remember is, ultimately, you are facing karmic reactions because you have disconnected from the source of power. Remember yesterday we were talking about how we need to be plugged into Krishna. He's the source of all energies. So how long can I operate this body if I'm disconnected from the ultimate source of power? How can I be strong? How can I be happy? How can I lead a purposeful life if I'm disconnected from the source of power. So Krishna says, ultimately, you and I are suffering because we have forgotten God. We have disconnected our Wi-Fi connection with him. So Krishna is waiting for you to re-establish that Wi-Fi connection. The password is bhakti. Bhakti is important. So let us say bad things are happening to you. What do good people do? One option is, as Krishna recommends, tolerate. The other option is mitigate. Mitigate means try to reduce your suffering. How can you try to reduce your suffering? By addressing it the best possible way that you can. The third way you can alleviate your suffering is to emigrate. Emigrate means moving from one country to another. But here Krishna is not talking about moving from one country to another. He's saying move from the material platform to the spiritual platform. Essentially emigrate from the material world to the spiritual world, which is your ultimate cause. Be connected to the ultimate. So Krishna is saying every opportunity is there when you're facing difficulties to connect back with me. It's a reminder for you to turn on your Wi-Fi connection. Turn it on. Connect to Krishna. Every time you're suffering, it's an opportunity for you to remember Krishna. Queen Kunti, when Krishna was leaving Hastinapur after staying with them for many months after the battle had been won, prays to the Lord and says, she thanks him. She says, every little suffering that we had, every little problem that we faced, you protected us. Now that all of our problems have been resolved, the battle has been won, I'm afraid that I'm going to forget you. So can you please make sure you always send sufferings my way so that I never forget you? Now that is an exalted devotee. You and I will never have the guts to pray like that. We will say, whatever happens, Lord, please don't send me any trouble my way. I have enough troubles on my hand. That's how you and I would pray. At least I know that's how I would pray. So when you're going to difficult situations in life, understand, contemplate as to why it's happening. But the most important thing is not to try to figure out what did you do in your past that's causing this. So accept the fact that difficulties will come. You don't know what you did in the past and you don't know how these things operate. But rather spend time being Krishna conscious, which means when you're in trouble, make sure you increase your connection to Krishna. So I mentioned about time frame earlier, and we will stop the class here after this. An apparent curse may be a benediction in the long run. And an apparent benediction can be a curse in the long run. Let's take an example from the scriptures. The two sons of Nalakuvera who were there in Mahesh Dham, they were engaging in activities that is unbecoming of exalted personalities because they were in the spiritual realm of Lord Shiva. So when Narada Muni passes by and sees them both naked, enjoying themselves with ladies, they were so drunk, they didn't even bother covering themselves up. Narada Muni becomes upset and he curses them. He says, go, become trees. For thousands of years, because you enjoy being naked, you will have to take the form of a tree. It is said that those who like being naked, their next life, they are going to be a tree. Because you just stand and be naked, you can't do anything. Rain, heat, cold, winter, summer, You can't do anything. You're naked. So he punishes them to become trees in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. But was it really a curse or was it a benediction? These two sons of Nalakuvera, or rather Kuvera's sons, who are Nalakuvera and Manigriva, these two sons of Kuvera, the treasurers, actually had the opportunity to witness Lord Krishna's childhood pastimes in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. Until the Damodar Leela happens, they were silently witnessing the pastimes of the Lord. And when the Lord saw these two trees, he remembered, yes, my devotee, Narada Muni, had given these two gentlemen a benediction that I will relieve them from this curse. Can you imagine? So apparently this was a curse, but in reality, Narada Muni was so merciful, he sent them as trees into Nanda Maharaj's courtyard so that Krishna himself could come in between them and relieve them of this curse or apparent curse. And Nalakuvera and Manigriva, when they are released from these trees, they circumambulate the Lord, they offer him prayers, beg for forgiveness, and Krishna says, it's all right, you can go back to your original position. An apparent benediction can be a curse. In mundane life, many of us may think if we are in financial trouble, if only I could play the lottery and win thousands of crores, I will be all set. You know, a few years back, I read an article that said that a particular company had done some research on all those who had won big lottery. They went and interviewed them and asked them, how's your life and how do you feel? They said it's a curse that we won this much money. Why? Because the minute they had that much money, anxiety increased because they had to learn how to deal with that much money, how to protect it, how to care for it, how to maintain it. The other problem, anybody and everybody in family was knocking on their doors asking for help because these people had become suddenly rich. So an apparent benediction in the long run can actually be a curse. So we shouldn't look at what is happening to us today and think it is a curse or Krishna is angry with us or he's punishing us. How do you know that he's punishing you? How do you know that he's punishing you? You may be suffering now, or you may think you're suffering now because you're in pain and anxiety. But in the long run, he has a better plan for you. So every time you feel that you're suffering, you focus on Krishna. You ask Krishna, how can I serve you? That is the mood that Krishna wants us to develop. So Krishna wants us to always be focused on doing our duty and not to focus on destiny. And therefore, when results come, Krishna wants you to simply accept it and not to agonize. A devotee of the Lord will never complain to the Lord and say, why are you doing this to me? A devotee of the Lord will say, my dear Lord, you know what is best for me. I do not know what your plan is for me. But I am not going to give you up. So for some of us, when we experience difficulties, our faith in the Lord actually increases. Our attraction to the Lord increases. Our dependency on the Lord increases, and that's what he wants. But for some of us, when challenging times come, we are ready to give up on Krishna in a heartbeat. Krishna is saying, don't worry. If you have surrendered to me, it's my job to protect you. There are many shlokas in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says repeatedly, for my devotee, I will do anything. For my devotee, I am the chariot driver of their life, but they have to surrender to me. So we all want Krishna to be the chariot driver, just as Krishna became the chariot driver for Arjuna on the battlefield. in our battlefield where we are struggling with ourselves and with all the, all the stuff that goes on in day-to-day life, we want Krishna to be the chariot driver. But to do that, you have to surrender to Krishna. You have to tell Krishna, here are the reins, take it. You do what you want. But I will not give up on you, no matter what happens. Yes. So I can speak from my personal experience that I have been through some difficult times when I was a little younger. And today, if I look at those experiences, I can tell you that at that time, I was asking myself, why am I? Why me? I didn't do anything wrong. The same questions that everybody asks themselves, the same questions I was asking. Why me, God? What did I do? I'm innocent. But now I realize and recognize that had I not gone through those personal difficulties and personal challenges, I wouldn't be here today. So in reality, every curse that you see as a curse is actually a benediction of the Lord. But we have to allow Krishna to use his own way to draw us closer to him. If he gives you only good things in life, the likelihood is that you will not need him anymore. So every now and then he will ring your doorbell by giving you challenges. It's an opportunity he's giving you to connect back with him. Accept that opportunity and connect with him. And once you're connected, don't disconnect, no matter what happens. So this is the most important thing, is that we must have faith that the Supreme Lord will not do anything to us that we cannot handle. If he's given you the tough situation, ask him for strength to deal with it. That's all we need to do. My dear Lord, I don't know what your plan is for me. I am struggling. I don't know what the right answer is in the situation. Please give me the strength to deal with it. So our duty is, instead of fearing karma, use difficult situations to help us increase our faith in Krishna. So this is the essence of karma. Krishna says, if you work for me and if you work on my behalf, then you need not worry, because I am taking charge of your life. So, but at the same time, we shouldn't think that Krishna is our servant and he should stop all your sufferings immediately. So Prabhupada said, when we turn off the fan and you cut off the electricity supply to the fan does not come to a stop right away. It'll take a few seconds to stop. So similarly, when you are connected to Krishna and disconnected from Maya, the karmic reactions you will experience for a few more seconds until it comes to a stop. That you must have faith in. So you establish a connection with Krishna, disconnect from Maya Devi. Maya Devi simply means all of the temptations that are out there for us. Anything that takes you away from Krishna is Maya. So this is the essence of today's chapter, karma. So tomorrow we will pick up the next topic, which is Jivatma. So please join us. Thank you for joining us today. I will stay back for any questions that you may have. Vancha kalpadarupyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnava vrindi ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Gaura Nitai ki jai. Hare Krishna.